It started like any other day, on the set of a Hollywood film, cameras rolling, actors in position, crew members focused on their tasks. But in a matter of seconds, everything changed. A shot rang out. A woman collapsed. Panic spread through the small group gathered around the scene, their faces shifting from concentration to confusion, then to absolute horror. At first, some thought it was part of the script, a mere accident of timing. But as the weight of the moment settled in, it became clear this was no rehearsed stunt. Something had gone terribly, irreversibly wrong. What was meant to be just another day of filming for the Western movie Rust had turned into a crime scene. The legendary actor, Alec Baldwin, a man who had spent decades in front of the camera, now found himself at the center of a real-life tragedy, one that would spark a firestorm of questions, controversy, and legal battles that remain unresolved to this day. The victim? Cinematographer Halyna Hutchins, a rising star in the film industry, known for her passion, talent, and an unrelenting drive to bring stories to life. As medics rushed to her side, desperate to save her, the weight of the situation settled onto every person on that set. How could a prop gun, something meant to be harmless, end a life in an instant? And perhaps the most chilling question of all, who was responsible? Law enforcement arrived quickly, their radios crackling with updates as they attempted to make sense of what had just happened. But the deeper they looked, the stranger the case became. A mix of confusion, conflicting statements, and an eerie sense that something wasn't quite right left even the most seasoned detectives at a loss for words. This wasn't a simple accident, at least not in the traditional sense. It was a puzzle filled with missing pieces, blurred lines between negligence and intent, and an industry grappling with one of its worst on-set tragedies. As details began to emerge, one thing became certain: this was a case that would change Hollywood forever. But before we dive deeper into the controversy, the legal battles, and the shocking discoveries that followed, let's go back to the beginning, to the moment everything unraveled. Because sometimes, the truth isn't just stranger than fiction, it's far more disturbing. For weeks, everything seemed ordinary in the small suburban neighborhood where the family lived. The father, Greg, had always been the quiet, hard-working type, often coming home late from his job as a corporate manager. His wife, Carla, was known for her charm and her ability to keep the house running smoothly. They were the kind of couple everyone envied: organized, poised, and always smiling in public. But behind the walls of their picture-perfect home, things were slowly beginning to unravel. Their teenage daughter, Emma, had started acting strange in the weeks leading up to the discovery. She'd grown withdrawn, speaking less and avoiding eye contact with anyone. It wasn't like her to be distant. She used to be the heart of family dinners, always laughing and sharing stories from school. But lately, she seemed distracted, almost haunted, as if she was carrying a burden far too heavy for someone her age. When the police first arrived, they had come for a completely unrelated matter: a missing dog from a neighbor's yard. But once they entered the family's home, they couldn't ignore the unsettling vibe that clung to the place. Something felt off. Maybe it was the awkward silence that filled the air when Greg and Carla greeted them, or the way Emma stared at them with a strange, almost pleading expression, as if she wanted to tell them something but couldn't find the words. As the investigation began, the hidden camera was discovered in Emma's room, tucked cleverly behind a framed picture. It was the last thing anyone expected, especially given how Greg and Carla had always portrayed themselves as perfect, loving parents. The camera wasn't just a surveillance device, it was positioned in a way that suggested something far more sinister. It wasn't long before rumors began to swirl around the neighborhood. Some neighbors started to recall strange things they'd seen Greg and Carla arguing late into the night, whispers of mysterious meetings, and strange people coming and going from their house at odd hours. But even more chilling were the whispers about Emma's relationship with a few classmates. Some had heard stories about her making secretive phone calls late at night, speaking in hushed tones, as if she was trying to hide something from the world. As the police continued their investigation, new and unexpected obstacles began to surface. Just when they thought they were getting close to the truth, something strange happened. The hidden camera footage, which could have been the key to unlocking the mystery, mysteriously vanished. It wasn't just erased from the system, it was as if it had never existed at all. The hard drive that stored the footage had been wiped clean, and there were no traces left behind. The police were stunned. Who could have done this? And why? It didn't make sense. With the most crucial piece of evidence gone, the investigation seemed to be at a dead end. But then came the warning. One afternoon, as Emma was leaving school, a strange figure approached her. It was a man in a dark suit, someone she didn't recognize. He didn't speak much, but the look in his eyes was enough to send a chill down her spine. "You need to stop asking questions," he said softly, but with a sharp edge to his voice. "Some things are better left buried." Emma didn't know who this man was or what he wanted, but she couldn't shake the feeling that his words were a threat. The next day, a mysterious envelope was left on the doorstep of the family's home. Inside was a photo of Emma, taken from the same hidden camera. But that wasn't all. There was a note with one simple message: "Stop looking, or the past will come back to haunt you." The message felt like a warning. But it wasn't just the police or the authorities that were starting to act strange. Carla, once so composed and confident, seemed increasingly paranoid. She would jump at every knock on the door, and her once friendly demeanor turned cold whenever someone mentioned the investigation. It was as if she knew something she wasn't telling. But what could it be? Was she involved? Or was she just trying to protect her family from the consequences of a terrible mistake? Even Greg, usually the calm and collected one, began to show signs of unraveling. He became short-tempered and defensive whenever anyone asked him about the camera or the missing footage. It was as if he knew more than he was letting on, but was too afraid to speak. And there were whispers. Whispers about a secret from their past, a time before Emma was born. A time when Greg and Carla had made decisions that might come back to haunt them. No one knew the details, but some claimed that there had been an incident, something hidden so deep that it had been buried for years. Could it have been related to the camera? Was this hidden event the key to understanding everything that was happening? The more Emma dug into her parents' past, the more unsettling things became. She began finding old photographs, letters, and even a journal, all hinting at something dark and secretive. But every time she got close to uncovering the truth, something or someone would make sure she backed off. Her phone was tapped, her emails were mysteriously opened, and it was clear that someone was trying to stop her from digging any further. The walls were closing in, and every lead seemed to turn into a dead end. The pressure was mounting, and Emma was beginning to feel like she was being watched. But just when things couldn't get any more intense, a shocking twist unfolded. One night, after Greg and Carla had gone to bed, Emma noticed something out of place. A familiar face appeared at the window, a face she had not seen in years. It was someone from her parents' past, someone she had never expected to see again. And that person was holding a piece of evidence that could change everything. But before Emma could react, the figure disappeared into the darkness, leaving her with more questions than answers. Who was this mysterious figure, and what did they know about her parents' past? Why had they returned now? The mystery deepened, and the lines between truth and deception began to blur. Was this a final attempt to cover up the truth, or was Emma finally getting closer to the answer she so desperately sought? The hunt for the truth was far from over, and the danger was only growing. As Emma stood frozen, staring into the darkness where the mysterious figure had vanished, her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and confusion. She tried to make sense of what she had just seen, but everything felt like it was spiraling out of control. Her parents were hiding something, she was certain of it now. But who was this stranger, and why were they involved? The pieces of the puzzle were scattered, and Emma was running out of time to put them together. But just when she thought things couldn't get more complicated, they did. The following day, her best friend Mia became the next target. Maya had been a quiet ally throughout the investigation, always standing by Emma as she uncovered new secrets. She had kept Emma's discoveries to herself, but somehow, the dangers Emma faced were now reaching out to those closest to her. One evening, as Maya was leaving the library after studying for an exam, she found a similar envelope waiting for her in the parking lot. Inside was a chillingly familiar photo of Emma, one taken from the same hidden camera that had been found in the house. But this time, there was something different about the note. It wasn't just a threat, it was a warning, and it was written in a way that made it clear the person who had sent it knew exactly who Maya was. Stay away from her. You don't know what you're getting into. Maya showed the note to Emma the next morning, and both girls were left with a sense of dread that they couldn't shake. What did this mean? Was Maya being dragged into this nightmare simply because of her connection to Emma? Or was there something more sinister at play? The tension grew when Maya confided in Emma that, for the past week, she'd been receiving strange phone calls with heavy breathing on the other end, followed by silence. At first, she had brushed them off, thinking it was just a prank. But now, with the envelope, she wasn't so sure. The danger was closing in on everyone around her, and Emma realized that the walls were closing in faster than she could comprehend. As Emma tried to process this new development, she received a call from the police this time, not with news of a breakthrough, but with an unsettling revelation. Another piece of evidence had been uncovered, but it didn't make sense. It was an old, faded letter, addressed to Carla, and written in a handwriting that Emma didn't recognize. The contents were cryptic, speaking of a debt that must be repaid and a promise made long ago. At first, Emma thought it might have been a letter from someone Carla knew before the family moved to the neighborhood, but as she read it again, the words felt much darker. Was it possible that her parents were involved in something far worse than she had ever imagined? The police didn't have much to go on, and they were still struggling to connect the letter with anything concrete. But something about it struck Emma as familiar, like she had seen those words before, or like they were meant to trigger something deep in her memory. But no matter how hard she thought, nothing came to her. The uncertainty was overwhelming. She decided to confront her parents about the letter, hoping to get some answers. But when she brought it up, both Greg and Carla grew unusually defensive. Carla's face flushed with anger, and Greg, usually calm, became visibly shaken. He immediately dismissed the letter as some kind of misunderstanding, something from the past that didn't matter anymore. But their reaction only fueled Emma's suspicions. Why were they so desperate to bury the truth? What had they done, and how far would they go to protect their secret? The more she pushed for answers, the more elusive the truth became, and the more her parents seemed to pull away from her. With each passing day, Emma felt the weight of the investigation pressing down on her, the suffocating fear that she might be getting too close to something dangerous. But the final straw came when Emma discovered something that contradicted everything she had believed so far. She was going through some old family photos when she found one that stopped her cold, a picture of Greg and Carla, but with a person in the background, someone she didn't recognize. The figure was blurry, almost as if someone was intentionally trying to keep their identity hidden. But there was one thing Emma noticed that sent a shiver down her spine. The person in the background was wearing the same dark suit she had seen the mysterious figure wearing the night before. The connection was impossible to ignore. Was this the same person who had been following her, leaving threats and warnings? Was he connected to her parents' past in ways she couldn't yet understand? Every new clue she uncovered seemed to lead her in circles, with more questions than answers. The stakes had never been higher, and Emma was no closer to uncovering the truth. As the danger escalated, she realized that she was no longer just uncovering secrets about her parents. She was uncovering a web of deceit, betrayal, and danger that had roots far deeper than she had ever imagined. The more she dug, the more she realized that everyone around her had their own secrets to hide. And now, the hunt for the truth had become a race against time, one that would force Emma to confront a past that threatened to destroy everything she knew. But just when she thought she had a grip on things, a new twist emerged that threatened to shake the very foundation of everything she believed. A piece of the puzzle, once thought to be lost, suddenly reappeared, and with it, a shocking revelation that no one could have predicted. But what did it mean? And was it too late to stop the dangerous forces closing in around her? The truth was within reach, but with each step forward, Emma found herself sinking deeper into the mystery and into the unknown. The days after the photo with the mysterious figure had disappeared into the night felt like a blur for Emma. Every time she walked into the house, the silence weighed heavier on her. The walls felt closer, and the darkness in the corners seemed more suffocating. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone was always watching. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. It was a gut instinct that gnawed at her. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't focus. She couldn't trust her own thoughts. It wasn't long before the unease began to manifest in small, unsettling ways. Her phone, once reliable and predictable, started acting strangely. She'd received texts she hadn't sent, strange notifications and calls that went straight to voicemail, always with that same heavy breathing on the other end. Maya, who had been her closest ally in this whole mess, began to pull away, her responses to Emma's questions growing more distant, more hurried. Emma tried to push through it, to keep moving forward, but it became harder to ignore. The feeling of being followed, of being tracked, was growing unbearable. Then one evening, everything changed. Emma was walking home from school when she noticed a black car parked just a few houses down from hers. She couldn't tell if it was a coincidence or not, but the car was new to the neighborhood, and the driver was sitting motionless behind the wheel, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. A shiver ran down Emma's spine. She quickly glanced over her shoulder, her heart racing. She didn't see anyone following her, but she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the man in the car had been watching her for a while. It was as if he knew exactly where she would be and when. A moment later, she heard footsteps behind her. At first, she told herself it was nothing. A neighbor walking their dog. Someone on their way to the store. But when she dared to look back, she saw the same man from the car, walking at a slow pace, deliberately following her from a distance. Her pulse quickened. She picked up the pace, but so did he. Her stomach churned with anxiety, and for the first time, the weight of everything of the camera, the warnings, the mysterious figure in her family photos, all hit her at once. The man was getting closer. Emma felt a wave of dread sweep over her, and her feet moved faster without thinking. She turned a corner, hoping to lose him, but as she hurried down a side street, the streetlights flickered out. Darkness closed in around her, and the only sound she could hear was her own breath and the soft patter of footsteps behind her. She was trapped. The man was closing in. She had no idea where he came from or what he wanted, but she had a terrible feeling that it wasn't good. She ducked into an alley, trying to stay out of sight, her heart pounding in her chest. She waited, breathless, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. It felt like an eternity before the footsteps grew distant, and then, for a moment, there was silence. Emma didn't wait another second. She bolted for the nearest exit and ran as fast as she could, not daring to look back. She reached her house, breathless and shaking, and slammed the door behind her, locking it with trembling hands. But even inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching. She wanted to call the police, to tell someone what had happened, but the fear of being dismissed of sounding crazy kept her silent. Besides, what could she even say? How could she explain the terror that had gripped her without sounding paranoid? But the next morning, things took an even darker turn. Emma was getting ready for school when her phone buzzed with an incoming message. She glanced at it quickly, her stomach sinking as she read the words, "We know where you are. You should have listened. It's too late now." The message sent a shockwave through her entire body, the realization that someone, somehow, had been monitoring her every move. It wasn't just a coincidence anymore, it was a threat. A threat aimed directly at her. She dropped the phone, her hands shaking, her mind racing. Who were these people? What did they want from her? And why was she the target? Was her family involved? Or was this a consequence of something deeper, something that went far beyond the camera, the mysterious figure, or even her parents' past? She thought about calling Maya, but the distance between them had grown too wide in the past few days. Maya hadn't responded to her texts, and she couldn't shake the feeling that her friend was hiding something. Maybe Maya knew more than she was letting on. Maybe she was involved in this somehow. The guilt twisted Emma's gut. She didn't want to suspect her closest friend, but the clues seemed to be pointing in that direction. As the hours passed, Emma couldn't help but feel like she was slipping further into a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. The threats were getting more direct, more personal, and she had no idea who she could trust anymore. Was Maya in danger too? Had she received similar threats? And what about her parents? Did they know the truth, or were they as trapped as she was? The doubt and fear consumed her, but one thing was clear: whatever was happening, it was escalating. Fast. As the evening drew closer, the knock on the door came. It was soft at first, then more insistent. Emma froze. She knew she couldn't ignore it any longer, but she was terrified of what lay on the other side. She glanced at the dark windows of the house, half expecting to see someone watching from the outside. Was it the police? A neighbor? Or was it someone connected to the sinister web she had been caught in? As the knock grew louder, the tension in Emma's chest became unbearable. Her breath quickened, her body frozen with indecision. She had no idea what to do. She didn't know who was outside, and she didn't know who she could trust anymore. The only thing she knew for certain was that she was in deeper than she had ever imagined, and the danger was only just beginning to close in. The knock on the door was relentless. Emma stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest as she stared at the door. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to stay away, to avoid whatever or whoever was on the other side. But the longer she waited, the louder the knock became, like a force that wouldn't be denied. Her mind raced, spinning in a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Was it the person who had been following her? The man in the car? Or was it someone else, someone closer to home? Hesitantly, she reached for the doorknob, her hand shaking as she turned it, each movement feeling heavier than the last. But when she opened the door, she wasn't prepared for what or who was standing there. It wasn't the stranger she feared, nor the police as she half expected. Standing in front of her was Maya. But it wasn't the Maya Emma had known for years. Her best friend's face was pale, her eyes wide, with something Emma couldn't immediately place: fear, maybe, or guilt. Her voice trembled as she spoke, barely a whisper. "You have to listen to me, Emma. It's not what you think. You've been looking in the wrong direction." Emma's mind raced, trying to process the words, trying to understand what was happening. Maya had been acting distant lately, yes, but now she was here, standing in her doorway, and something in her eyes told Emma that everything she had thought to be true was about to come crashing down. The camera, the threats, the warnings, all of it. Maya took a step forward, lowering her voice to a hush. "I never wanted you to get involved in this," she said, her eyes darting nervously around, as though checking for someone listening. "But you kept digging, and now they're coming for you. I'm sorry, Emma, but I didn't know how to stop it. I couldn't." Emma's mind was spinning, trying to keep up, but the words didn't add up. "Stop what? Who's coming for me? Maya, what are you talking about?" Maya's breath caught as she glanced nervously over her shoulder. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her with a soft click, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt the walls of her own home close in on her. "I never meant for you to find out," Mia continued, her voice low and heavy. "But my parents, they aren't who you think they are. They're not who anyone thinks they are. And neither is mine." Emma's confusion deepened, the words landing like a punch. Maya's parents. What was she saying? She had always trusted Maya. And yet this new version of her friend seemed like a stranger, someone wrapped in secrets and lies. "What do you mean?" Emma whispered, her throat dry, as she tried to make sense of the puzzle pieces that were now scattered across her life. "What's going on? Who are you really?" Mia took a deep breath, her eyes dark with something Emma couldn't quite read. "I didn't know how to tell you. But everything that's been happening, it's connected to my family, Emma. My parents. They're involved in this. They've been watching you. They were the ones behind the camera." The ground beneath Emma's feet seemed to tilt. The room spun. Her mind refused to process the words that had just left Maya's lips. "What? No, that can't be. That's impossible," Emma stammered, her eyes wide in disbelief. Mia shook her head, her voice almost breaking. "I didn't know the full story at first, okay? I only found out recently. My parents, they've been involved in something for years. Something dangerous. And they knew you were getting too close to it. So they planted the camera. They started threatening you, trying to scare you off. And I couldn't stop them." Emma's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding in her chest, as the reality of what Maya was saying started to sink in. "But why? Why would they do this? And why would you help them?" The words felt like poison, bitter and raw. "I wasn't helping them," Maya said, her voice shaky. "I didn't know. I swear, Emma, I didn't know about the camera at first. I didn't understand what was going on. But when I found out the truth, when I found out who was really behind all of this, I tried to warn you. I tried to protect you, but I couldn't do it alone." Emma's mind was reeling, her body frozen in shock. Maya had been a part of this, had been connected to the very thing that had been stalking her, that had been threatening her, and she hadn't said a word. All this time, her best friend had been in on the secret, lying to her, keeping her in the dark. And now, Mia was telling her that she had no choice but to be involved in this dangerous game. The walls seemed to close in tighter, and Emma could feel the air getting heavier, like she was suffocating under the weight of the truth. "I tried to stop them," Maya said, tears welling in her eyes. "I really did. But it's too late now, Emma. They've already come for you." A chill ran down Emma's spine as she realized the magnitude of what Maya had just revealed. This wasn't just about hidden cameras or strange messages anymore. It wasn't about her parents' mysterious past. No, this was about something far deeper, something that had been set in motion long before Emma had even known what was happening. The truth about her parents, the threats, the surveillance, and the chilling warning all pointed to one thing. Emma was a pawn in a much bigger game, and the people she trusted the most had been playing her from the very beginning. As the weight of this revelation crushed down on her, Emma felt her world unraveling. But before she could ask any more questions, before she could demand answers from Maya, there was a sound, a soft but unmistakable sound. A knock. This time, it wasn't at the door. It was from somewhere inside the house, and it was far too close for comfort. Emma's mind was reeling as the soft knock echoed through the house. It was the kind of sound that made her blood run cold, a subtle but unmistakable reminder that whatever was happening, it was only escalating. She stood frozen in place, unable to speak, unable to move. Maya, who had been so close just moments ago, now seemed a world away. She looked just as shaken as Emma felt, but that didn't ease the anxiety clawing at Emma's chest. This couldn't be happening. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. Her life, everything she thought she knew, was falling apart before her eyes, and yet there was nothing she could do to stop it. The knock came again, louder this time. She glanced at Maya, who was staring at the door with wide eyes, her hands trembling. "What is that? Who is it?" Emma's voice was barely above a whisper, but Maya didn't respond, her gaze locked on the door with an almost paralyzed intensity. For a moment, it felt like the world outside had completely stopped. Everything was suspended in that moment of dread. Was it the man from the car? Was someone else coming for them? Someone worse? The knock persisted, more insistent, more urgent. With a trembling hand, Emma grabbed her phone and texted her parents, hoping to get some answer, some reassurance, but her phone remained silent. They hadn't answered her calls earlier. Were they even home? Were they in on this? Was her entire life a lie? She couldn't trust anything anymore. Maya's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts, soft but firm. "You have to decide, Emma. You have to choose. Right now." Emma turned sharply, confusion flooding her face. "Choose? What are you talking about? What's going on? What's behind that door?" Mia didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer, her face pale, her eyes darting nervously. "It's your parents. They've been hiding something from you. You have to confront them. If you don't, everything will get worse. I can't protect you anymore. They're too deep into this. You don't understand what you're asking me to do." Emma was struggling to keep her voice steady, her mind a chaotic mess of questions. "Maya, what are you saying? You've been lying to me. You're telling me that you knew about all this, about the threats, about the camera, and you didn't tell me. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Why did you bring me into this? I trusted you." The words hit harder than she intended, but they were true. Maya had been her friend, her closest ally, and now everything felt like a betrayal. The weight of it crushed her, and for a moment, it was all she could do not to crumble under the pressure. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. "I never wanted you to get involved, Emma. I thought I could protect you. But the longer you kept digging, the more dangerous it became. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop them." Emma's throat tightened with anger, frustration, and betrayal. "Stop who? Who are you talking about? Who's behind all this?" Maya hesitated, and when she spoke, her voice was barely audible. "My parents, they're part of it. But so are yours. This is bigger than we ever realized. It's about something they've been keeping hidden for years. It's not just about the camera or the threats. It's about control, power, and a debt that can never be paid back. And now, it's your turn to decide where you stand. You can go to your parents, confront them, but you'll never be safe again. They'll make sure of it. Or you can walk away, forget all of this, and live in fear for the rest of your life. They'll still come after you, Emma. But at least you'll have a chance at peace. It's up to you." The room seemed to close in on Emma as she processed Maya's words, each sentence heavier than the last. Her parents, who she had trusted, loved, looked up to, were involved in something far darker than she had ever imagined. She felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest, suffocating her with its impossible stakes. How could she choose? How could she confront the very people who had given her life, raised her, and who, at the core of her existence, were her rock? Yet, everything Maya said made sense. There was a darkness in her family's past, something they had hidden, something they had kept from her. The threats, the hidden camera, the strange behavior, it was all connected. And if Maya was right, if this really was about power and control, then Emma's life would never be the same again. She could walk away, cut ties, live in fear, or she could face her parents, confront them, and risk everything. The stakes were too high, the consequences too devastating. The knock sounded again, louder this time, more persistent. Emma's heart raced, and a cold sweat broke out across her skin. She couldn't breathe. She didn't know what to do, who to trust, or which way to turn. Maya's voice cracked with urgency. "Emma, you have to make a choice now. They're coming. There's no time left. You can't keep running from this." Emma wanted to scream. She wanted to break down, to give up. But she couldn't. The weight of the decision before her was too much. The door loomed behind her, and every knock, every moment of silence between them, felt like the start of something irreversible. How could she even begin to make the choice? And what if, in making the wrong one, she lost everything: her family, her friend, her safety? The clock was ticking, and the walls were closing in, suffocating her in the thick tension of impending danger. The door was just a few steps away, but crossing that threshold would change everything. Emma realized, with a sickening certainty, that no matter what decision she made, there would be no turning back. The only thing she could do was face whatever came next. But how much of the truth would she really be able to handle? The air in the room was thick with tension, every breath Emma took feeling like it might be her last. Maya's words hung in the silence like a bomb, the weight of them crushing her. "They're coming for you, Emma," Maya repeated, her voice desperate, her eyes wild with fear. "You can't hide from this. You don't understand what's really at stake. It's not just about your parents anymore, it's about the entire system they've built. People will die if you keep pushing. You're in deeper than you know." Emma's mind was spinning, everything in her life feeling like it was unraveling. She wanted to scream, to run, to deny everything Maya was telling her, but something deep inside her knew that this was the truth. Maya's tear-filled eyes reflected a reality Emma wasn't ready to face, and that reality was crashing down on her faster than she could comprehend. The knock at the door came again, louder, more urgent, as though whoever was on the other side knew the stakes, knew that Emma was the last piece to fall into place. "I have to get out of here," Emma whispered, backing away, her heart pounding. She was being hunted. She could feel it now, like a predator closing in, and no matter how hard she tried to run, there was nowhere to hide. But then Maya stepped in front of her, blocking the door. "No, you don't get it, Emma. There's no way out. They've been following you for months. Every move you've made, every conversation you've had, they know it all. You were never safe, even before you found the camera." Emma's chest tightened. The idea of being watched, always being watched, felt suffocating. Who's behind this? Who's watching me? Maya hesitated, biting her lip as though the truth was too much to say. "It's bigger than just your parents. It's bigger than us. There's a group, an organization, that has its hands in everything. Politics, business, law enforcement. Everyone has a role to play. They've been pulling strings for years, and now they're pulling yours. They think you know too much. They've been setting you up for months, Emma. Your parents, they've been playing their part all along. They're not just protecting you, they're controlling you. And so am I." Emma's blood ran cold as the realization hit her with brutal force. You're a part of this." She stepped back, her voice breaking. Maya, her best friend, the one person she thought she could trust, had been playing her the entire time. "I never wanted it to go this far," Maya said, tears streaming down her face. "But I was in too deep. I didn't have a choice. If I didn't help them, they would have come for me. I thought I could control it. I thought I could protect you." The door slammed open with a deafening crash, and Emma instinctively took a step back, her heart racing as cold air rushed into the room. Her breath caught in her throat as a tall figure stepped inside, casting a long shadow over the floor. Maya gasped, stepping back as well, her face drained of all color. No, this isn't what you think," Maya whispered, her voice trembling. But the man who stood in the doorway didn't seem to care about Maya's protests. His eyes were locked on Emma with an intensity that made her stomach churn. He didn't look like someone who had come to talk. His presence alone was enough to make the walls close in on her, suffocating her with the weight of the situation. He was the man from the car, the one who had been watching her, following her every move, orchestrating the entire nightmare she had been living. Emma's pulse hammered in her ears as she tried to steady herself, but every ounce of bravery seemed to slip away with the sight of him. The man stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. His voice was cold, calculated, devoid of emotion. "You should have never dug too deep, Emma. You should have stayed in the dark like everyone else." Her thoughts raced as her mind tried to catch up with the reality of what was happening. This man, he wasn't just part of the organization, he was at the center of it. All the pieces had fallen into place, but nothing made sense. Maya, her family, everyone, had they all been part of this twisted game from the start? Was there even a single person she could trust anymore? "I told you to stop." Mia's voice was strained, almost pleading. "I tried to protect you, but you wouldn't listen. Now we're both going to pay the price." Emma's heart skipped a beat as she turned to her best friend, the one person she thought she could count on. "You, Maya." Maya's eyes flickered with guilt, but there was no denying the truth. The betrayal ran deeper than Emma could have ever imagined. "I didn't have a choice, Emma. You don't understand how dangerous this is. They've been pulling the strings for so long. I thought I could stop it. I thought if I helped you, I could protect you, but I was wrong." When Emma woke, everything felt different. The world was quieter now, almost too quiet, like the calm before a storm. Her body ached with exhaustion and pain, her side still throbbing where the bullet had grazed her skin. But there was a strange sense of stillness, a moment where the chaos she had lived in for so long seemed to pause. She was lying on a cold metal table, her hands bound loosely to the sides. The room around her was dark, only the faintest light filtering in through a small crack in the wall. For a moment, she forgot where she was, who she was, or what had happened. But then the memories hit her like a tidal wave: the betrayal, the lies, the camera, the man, Maya. Her breath caught in her throat as she forced herself to sit up, her heart pounding, her mind scrambling to make sense of it all. She didn't know how long she had been out, or how she had even gotten here. But there was one thing that was clear: the world outside this room hadn't stopped. The conspiracy, the game that had been played with her life, was still going on. And somehow, she was still a part of it, despite everything. She reached up to touch her side, where the pain was still sharp, a reminder of how close she had come to losing everything. But it didn't matter anymore. She was alive. That's all that mattered. Emma stumbled to her feet, her legs unsteady, but determination pulsing through her veins. She couldn't just let this go. She couldn't walk away, even if every instinct inside her screamed to find safety and run as far away from this nightmare as possible. She had made it this far, and now she needed to know the truth, all of it. The faces that had deceived her, the motives that had remained hidden, the strings that had been pulled in the shadows. They couldn't win. They wouldn't win. The door to the room creaked open, and a familiar figure stepped inside. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she saw Maya standing in the doorway, her face pale and strained, her eyes red from tears. "Emma," she whispered, her voice thick with regret and fear. "I didn't know if you'd make it through." Emma stared at her, her emotions conflicted. She had trusted Maya more than anyone else, and yet Maya had been a part of it all, tangled up in the web of deceit and manipulation. But despite the betrayal, despite the hurt, Emma knew that Maya had been a victim too, just like her. She could see it in her eyes, the same terror, the same desperation that had mirrored her own. They had both been players in a game they hadn't understood, trying to survive, trying to protect the ones they loved.